Do you ever feel like learning to draw is just hard and everyone always says keep practicing and you'll get better? I've even said that myself to people too, but there is a bit of truth to it. Practice does help you improve your skills at anything. There is though a few skills that if you learn to master them, you can stop drawing for a while and also create realistic art across any medium. In this video, I'm going to show you the most important skills that will help you learn to draw realistically. But first, I'm going to take you through my epically organized closet, where there are a bunch of my old drawings from when I was a kid, a little over 10 years from right now. So first, I will be showing you my old artwork and explaining what's wrong and right with them by critiquing myself and explaining what I could have done better, and what I've done and not done for those 10 years to be able to improve my ability to draw and come back with a big bang in drawing super realistically in a medium I never did before. And I also know quite a number of you have been asking to see my old artwork, and now you get to finally see some of them. First up is a marker pointillism drawing done with limited colors of only red, yellow, blue, green, brown, and black. Pointillisms are a bunch of dots. This drawing was done as a still life, so I had to stare at some objects in a room and also draw by hand on my drawing paper. The accuracy and proportions is actually really good. The only thing that I really see wrong with this drawing is that there is definitely not enough values. There's not enough good shadows to make it look super realistic. Now there's two explanations for that. One is my skill level wasn't quite what it is right now, and I actually did not have enough time to finish drawing this piece. And for those of you who think you know what type of animal skull this is, let me know down in the comments and I'll let you know if you're right. This is a drawing done on Scratchboard, where you take an X-Acto knife and scrape off the black top layer to reveal the white paper underneath. A few of the biggest mistakes that I made with this drawing was adding lines in around the edges of it, almost like a sketch, and then trying to draw fur over that later. Those lines were still really obvious. Another thing that I also want to point out too is that I feel like I didn't do quite as good of a job with the realism look to the fur. To me, knowing all the experience I do now about drawing realistic fur, I don't think I did enough clumping in there. It really just looks like more of a bunch of staggered straw. I mean, it looks pretty good, but there should have been a lot more types of clumping structures going on there for this fur to look even better. And with getting more accurate clumping structures within the fur, it really would have helped also with achieving more realistic values. Not that this bear doesn't have kind of an appropriate range of values, it's just that with that clumping structure, it would have added more of those realistic values within the fur, thus making this image look a lot more realistic. This is a drawing done in ballpoint pen, and although it does have a lot of good qualities to it, it is also really lacking in values. Ballpoint pen is actually kind of difficult to draw in because you have to be able to control the amount of ink that comes out of it, and that's actually really difficult. So when you're trying to shade in areas of white paper and do minimal shading and not end up with a whole bunch of ink on it, you have to be extremely careful with the amount of pressure that you apply to the paper. This is a still life drawn in soft pastel. I'd say I did an okay job with values. There's a lot of areas though that I feel like I didn't get enough on there. It's a little bit too much of a stark contrast between the light and dark. If you are looking to level up your drawing skills, real-time drawing lessons and critique sessions can really give you the help that you need. You'll learn the techniques, tricks, and shortcuts to getting your drawings looking realistic. The lessons are for any skill level and are step-by-step, so they are really easy for you to follow alone. Get access to loads of real-time tutorials of my masterworks where I take you through every step of the way. Learn more and sign up at jessicamatheny.com. And here is the last drawing that I did during this time before I stopped drawing for 10 years. Now, overall, this drawing is actually really good. There is an absolutely good amount of proper values across this entire drawing, which is what is most important in any artwork looking realistic. The mistakes that I see are with the bridle that the horse is wearing, the string and the metal parts of this bridle. I didn't really know how to draw them properly at this point. There's also still quite a bit of harsh pencil strokes for a lot of the texture on this horse's fur that could have been easier avoided if I had just been a little bit more light with my pencil and if I had used different graphite pencils that had multiple lead hardnesses. So from this drawing, I stopped. And then 10 years later, I got back into drawing, drew a few graphite pencil drawings because that is what I was familiar with and wanted to just get back into the swing of things and feel comfortable. And then I decided to draw a new medium that I had never done before, which was colored pencil. And boom! My first colored pencil drawing. And then my second drawing with colored pencils was this bald eagle. Now you might be wondering, why did I stop drawing for so long and what did I do during this time? I stopped drawing for a very complicated reason with some tough times in my life I'm not going to get into, but essentially I just didn't have it in me. And if you guys have stopped drawing in your life too, let me know, and what was it that kept you together? So now you might be wondering, how did my drawing skills stay so high despite me not drawing anymore? So during this 10 years that I stopped drawing, eventually during like the last 5 years of it, I picked up digital art. So I was doing digital paintings as well as photo manipulations. So essentially I was doing something that actively was helping to build my ability to just do realistic art regardless of what medium it is. Now the reason my skills continued to develop into what it is today is because of a few things that you can also apply with your own drawings and art to help improve your skills. And the first thing is to practice focusing on shapes. From everything that you draw or paint, essentially what you are doing is making a copy of all of the shapes that you are seeing from every single thing that you draw, to the fur of an animal, to the scales of a lizard, to the waves of water. It doesn't matter what you are drawing, they are all shapes. And each one of those shapes, there's different shapes for the highlights, the midtones, and the shadows, as well as just general shapes for the actual object or the texture also. A lot of times I see people getting caught up in just trying to draw as matter of fact. We're going to talk about fur here because that is the most common thing that I see the mistakes with. And that is, a lot of people tend to see it as just being, you're drawing the actual hairs. So you're drawing your pencil strokes to look like hairs. And then once you go through the entire animal, then you realize, boy, that doesn't even look like fur, does it? What is wrong with it? But if you don't have the varying degrees of all of the shapes, the structure of the fur, which is also shapes, and then all of the little minute, teeny tiny patterns of the types of blobby fur stroke shapes, instead of them being straight like pencil strokes, a lot of them are very subtle to indicate that there is some fur there, but you can't quite make out individual hairs. It's when you get caught up in the idea of trying to draw all those individual hairs that you set yourself up for failure. Now, another skill that is important to master is self-critiquing. Really, the only way that you are going to get better at all is learning how to see the mistakes that you make. This is a type of skill that slowly builds over time, but once you have that critical eye to be able to point out your mistakes, what are those differences between them, then you get into being able to draw super realistic drawings or any paintings or whatever medium you're working with. And this goes hand in hand with focusing on shapes as well, because in order to properly self-critique yourself, you need to also understand basics of what types of shapes you have there and how you can go about trying to change those mistakes and have a better outcome next time. Now, when it comes to self-critiquing, doesn't mean you go ahead and do a whole drawing and then you look at it when you're all done and try and compare what you messed up. I mean, that is critiquing, but what you really need to get in the habit of doing is self-critiquing all the time while you are drawing. Finished filling in one layer of one color? Critique that. Check to see how much you actually need. Pay attention to your reference. Where is all of this brown around this eye at? Maybe I need to add more down in here. Boy, those shadows just don't look right. What is wrong with it? That's the kind of questions you should be asking yourself all the time. This doesn't look right. What do I need to do to change that? How can I get this to look like the reference? Then generally what I do is give myself a rundown of some questions of, okay, does it need to be darker? Does it need to be lighter? Did I put too much of this color down? Do I need to erase some of that to make it lighter? And then as far as colors go, it's really not as hard as you think it is. It's about just making the decision of, does it need more yellow, blue, or red? The three primary colors make up all the other colors out there. But the easiest way around that is to identify, okay, what value am I working with here? Am I working with more of a mid-tone, a highlight, or am I working more on the spectrum of almost shadows with the colors that I need? So then you try to identify, well, I'm working in the shadows here, so I need to add more of either red, yellow, or blue in the more mid-tone type of spectrum. So then you're picking colors only in that spectrum for that type of specific color. If you can train yourself to do this out of habit after every layer that you apply, especially after a bunch of dark values that you apply, once you add in those really dark values, then it's a lot easier to kind of notice the mistakes you've made between all of the other value ranges, so between your highlights and your midtones. Because now you have an an area where it has a complete full spectrum of all of the value ranges. Mastering self-critiquing as well as focusing on drawing shapes are the two biggest skills you can have to learn to draw realistically. And it is why I was able to maintain my skill set for not drawing for 10 years. So that when I finally got back into it, all I did was just a few graphite drawings to start myself off with something that I was familiar with, and then I did my first colored pencil drawing. I do think it also helped too that digital art is actually a lot like drawing with colored pencils. To build up good colors with the subjects that you are digitally painting, you often need to do several layers with different opacity settings, meaning that some of those color layers you can kind of see through them and the other colors underneath them. Colored pencil is the same way, which of course you can learn all about layering and all of the different techniques that goes into colored pencil drawing from my real-time drawing lessons. Go to jessicamatheny.com to learn more and sign up. There's a link right here on the screen. And I will see you in the next video.